All right, so the first thing is, how much to feed, right? Uh, and I don't think we all usually have a good handle on how much to feed a dog. And this is a really good formula to give you an idea as far as what a dog's maintenance energy requirement is. And it's measured in kilocalories per day. So how many kilocalories per day do we feed a dog? And so the formula is pretty easy. You take your dog's weight to the power of 0.67 and you multiply it by 145. So that gives you a ballpark how much to feed a dog. And that becomes important because in that way you know how much to increase your bitch's calorie requirements, during her breeding, during the gestation and lactation and whatnot. So you really have a good handle on how much she's getting in. So, for example, if we have a 20 kilogram dog, and it would roughly equal about 360 kilocalories per cup, which gives you 3 cups per day. So, if you want to try to use your phone and see if you get the same calculation I do, just to make sure that you're okay with that sort of formula. But is everybody okay with this sort of calculation? Yeah, okay. All right, so starting off with nutrition. Now there's a lot of things that can be done as far as pre-breeding, preparing the fish for getting her ready. Now, flushing has been used a lot in cattle in terms of helping cattle superovulate or increase the amount of eggs that they can release. It hasn't been researched as much as it has been in cattle, but it's been known that it can help bitches in terms of increasing the level of energy by 5 to 15%, the maintenance level. So that's why it's important to kind of know what your bitch's maintenance caloric level is, and then you can increase it by that much just prior to her coming into heat. And that tends to have a flushing effect where they can have a tendency to release more eggs during ovulation. How's my voice back there? Is it pretty good? Okay. So you want to start at or just before proestrus, the start of heat, or the start of her coming into heat. And you can continue this. Let's go back here. So you can continue this right after she's done standing or after her heat. You don't want to continue at a high level while she's pregnant in her first and second trimester. We don't want them to get overweight. We just want to increase the caloric intake initially during the proestrus and estrus period and then drop it down to her maintenance level. Okay, so what should the diet include other than, elevating her energy intake? I mean, it's been known that, fat content is important, and the type of fat as well. We've got the omega fatty acids, omega-3 and 6 fatty acids, that are known that in certain ratios to be more beneficial. So where we get omega-3 fatty acids is mostly from fish, flaxseed oil, and the omega-6s are mostly from meats as well. So you want to balance it out where you have kind of a 5-to-1 ratio. It's, omega-6s are a lot more plentiful in a diet than the omega-3s, which is found mostly in fish and in flaxseed oil, primrose oil, and there's others as well. All right, so again, in terms of feeding, you want to make sure that the food is balanced. You've got your protein percentage, you've got your fat percentage, and your calculated caloric intake. and then at the 2/3, the end of the 2/3, the last 1/3 of her trimester, that's when you want to increase her caloric intake, and usually it's about 150% of the maintenance level. So other type of nutritional considerations, for breeds. There's talk about folic acid supplementation, and it's been known in most diets out there, most well-balanced dog food diets out there have folic acid in there, but it's been known that in certain breeds that are prone to cleft palates in particular, a supplementation of folic acid has been known to decrease the incidence of cleft palates. So research has shown, supplementing, up to 5 milligrams per day per dog helps to decrease the incidence of folic acid, or incidence of cleft palates. But I would probably only do that in breeds that are susceptible to cleft palates. So those brachiocephalic breeds like Frenchies, Bulldogs, that are known. I mean, there is definitely a genetic component. Yeah.
Do you have to buy special folic acid for dogs, or can you get it like
Over the counter.
over the counter?
Over the counter. Yeah, it's fine.
Does it hurt using it for breeds that don't have issues with the cleft palate?
It doesn't hurt, but they've done a study with golden retrievers using folic acid. For some reason, there hasn't been any much benefit in terms of adding folic acid to golden retrievers to reduce cleft palates. Not that you see very many in golden retrievers. So it seems to be most useful in those brachiocephalic breeds. Yeah. And there didn't seem to be much benefit in using folic acid supplementation in breeds that aren't typically known to be susceptible. And I think just making sure that the dog food that you are feeding is well balanced, and it will have folic acid in there. There's a dog food called Royal Canine HT42, which is considered to be a maintenance food for breeding bitches from the time of breeding to up to day 42. And so it has some of the qualities that I've talked to you about. It's not the one only food out there. There's lots of foods that are similar or comparable or can be used equally. But the Royal Canin HT42, though, I think they're the ones that have done a lot of the research and put the time into formulating a diet that is helpful addressing some of these issues in terms of the omega fatty acid content, the increased energy content, and also it adds more folic acid to their diet.
Sorry, I missed when you said when to start the folic acid.
Right, so you want to start just before breeding. So pretty much at the beginning of proestrus.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, folic acid is relatively safe, and so at this level, it's considered safe even for smaller dogs, and that's kind of the dose that's been used in the research out there. I mean, there's been other doses used, like 2 to 4 to 5 milligrams, and it depends a lot on the food as well. I mean, if you're using a food like HT42 that has a higher level of folic acid, then you probably don't need to supplement. Okay, so lactation is where the bitch's caloric requirement really goes up. So it goes up to 300% kind of peak lactation. So that's 2 to 3 weeks into her lactation. So, and sometimes it's hard because some bitches just go off their food and they don't want to eat. And so you just need to pay particular attention to their actual caloric requirements.
So when they do go off their food, which mine usually do,
Yeah.
how do you get it into them?
How do you stimulate them to eat? That's a great question. You're going to have to find things out there that are palatable, right? And pretty much anything and everything that you can find to really entice their appetite. Because at that point, what's important is getting that energy into them. Whether it's sometimes milk replacer is really good because that has a lot of calories in them, and it helps to also prevent hypocalcemia at that stage too, because they're also prone to hypocalcemia, which we'll get into later. So milk replacer, there are very high caloric energy dense foods out there like Hill's AD, or there's also Royal Canine Recovery. So there are higher dense foods out there. Baby food sometimes can help. If you have a big dog, you're going through a lot of baby food, but you're looking for foods out there that are very high dense in calories. So that way, if they're not eating so much, they're still getting that caloric intake.
Just backing up a little bit, what if you have your bitch on a low-fat diet because of their predisposition to high lipid levels?
Yeah.
What should one do in that case? Continue on the same diet? Or
Well, you can feed a high-calorie diet that's low in fat, right? So that's possible.
the one that she's on is Royal Canin low-fat gastro.
Right.
So,
Right. So you can supplement with rice or potatoes to increase their calorie content.
okay.
Yeah. And in terms of where to find calorie, I mean, you can, again, sometimes we have to rely on Google, and so I mean, they'll have, you can find breakdowns on, pound per pound, how many calories of a certain food that you would be feeding your bitch. So whether it's potatoes or meat or whatever, I mean, you can find out pound per pound what the caloric intake would be, and then you can use that along with whatever you're already feeding your dog.